I'm so glad that you've joined us here on the Clark Howard Show. You know, our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. In this episode, finding a trustworthy financial advisor is so difficult, and it's much in the news right now because of proposed federal regs. Don't wait for the federal regs and what the courts are going to do with those. Do what you need to protect yourself. I got a key warning for you straight ahead. Also, for years I've talked about how Americans have just so much stuff. And that's led to this industry that's unlike anywhere else on earth with all the storage units we have. Well, there's new developments in the storage unit space I want you to know about if you have one or more storage units. I have a relative who has 6. Seriously. I've got advice that can actually save you money. So let's talk about your money with the people who were there to give you advice. So I was talking with somebody recently who was referred by her credit union to someone for financial advice about her retirement account. And the person was very affable. And 10 minutes into meeting with this individual, he starts a pitch for an index annuity. So the credit union did her as a member a complete disservice because all they did was refer her to somebody who supposedly was a financial planner, but all they were was an insurance salesman. Never asked anything about her goals, her assets, anything, just launched in the pitch. This is a big problem with financial advice, most particularly with people who have been fortunate enough and have been able to put money aside paycheck after paycheck and build up a nice account in a 401k, let's say, or a thrift savings plan if they're a federal employee, and build up money over the years, and then they are retiring. Or they're leaving a job after a long, long time. There's been a loophole under federal law that someone you talk to at that point does not have to do what's in your best interest. They are allowed to sell you any old insurance junk, high commission investments, private placements that have massive commissions for them and ugly expenses that lock up your money also for years without any market for you to get out. People are free to do that, and they're not even breaking the law. That's what the big fight is about this new regulation on advice when you leave a job. And the financial houses are going to fight it tooth and nail. I don't think it'll ever come into force. So what you have to know is arm yourself with the knowledge to understand when you hit that point where you're retiring or you're leaving a long-term employer, know that the individual you turn to for advice, unless they sign a legally binding agreement with you to provide advice to you on that as a fiduciary, they can sell you any old junk. They can rip you off to the end of earth, and they have not broken any law. And they've broken your future financial security. They have destroyed your future financial security with some horrendous insurance product, some hideous high-cost, high-commission investment, or some kind of private placement garbage. You, as an individual, are the one who has to, up front, when you want that expertise, talk to somebody who's legally required to put your interests first. Now, I want to tell you something else. If you got a lot of money in a 401k or the TSP and you're retiring or leaving, Do you know often your best move is to leave your money right where it is and not move it? That's right. Everybody feels like, oh, I've retired from here. I got to move my money. But the odds are overwhelming. You're best off keeping your money there, because the expenses you're paying in a large company plan or the government TSP are going to likely be lower than what they'd be outside. There's big financial incentive for financial houses to say, oh, well, let's move all this to an IRA, where it may be best left in that 401k or TSP. This is, again, another reason why it's so important that the advice you seek is only from a fiduciary. And read our guide on Clark.com, how to make sure you hire somebody who is a fiduciary. Couldn't they come up with a better word than fiduciary, Christa?
I don't know. Maybe we should come up with one.
Oh, come up with the new thing that would substitute as the force of law?
I think we're getting used to it now, though, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Sheila in Wisconsin says, you recently discussed ways the government needs to fix Social Security. I never hear anyone mention raising the earnings that are subject to Social Security payroll taxes. In 2024, it's up to $168,600. Wouldn't that be a huge help if higher income earners still had these amounts withheld, or am I off base here?
So that's how years ago, when the Medicare program was going insolvent, they balanced the books for Medicare for many years. Now Medicare is not balanced, but they did for many years by eliminating the income limit on earnings subject to the Medicare tax. And even though the political parties don't want to talk about this, both political parties are absolutely figuring that's going to be part of the fix, is they're going to eliminate the income earning cap that is subject to Social Security tax as one of the elements that will go into preserving the Social Security fund.
Heather in Massachusetts says, help Frugal Clark. I've been enjoying the ability to automatically download your podcast for free on Google Podcasts to enjoy while I'm out and about without data. How can I continue to do this? I'm gutted that Google is discontinuing this service.
Oh, isn't it funny? Google, we talked about this like 3 or 4 months ago, how Google will start all these initiatives and then just out of nowhere they say, okay, we're getting rid of that, getting rid of that, getting rid of that. Now they're doing something with Google
Music.
GPay or something.
Oh, well, it's Wallet now, yeah.
And I don't understand that.
Well, they just eliminated the person-to-person transactions, but it's just you can use Google Wallet to pay it.
So Google as a company is like kind of how many Clark Stinks would I get if I said they're just really ADD about how they do things? God. Is there another way to say that?
Well, I would argue, I would also
in their approach
I would say that, as a company business owner, like you do understand that sometimes you try things, they don't work and you have to pivot, but yeah.
They pivot a lot.
Yeah, they pivot a lot.
So it's really easy with podcasts. Ours are free. And you can download any episode by going to clark.com/podcast. Or there's many, many, many podcast sites that you can get us from for free.
Right, but automatic downloads, I'm not sure, you can't automatically download from our website. So, I do it on Spotify, but I do pay for Spotify Premium. So I'm not an Apple podcast. I think you can do that if you have an Apple phone. But obviously this person used Google Podcasts, so they have a Google phone.
But there are many, many podcast sources that carry us.
Yep.
And so
everywhere you can think of Stitcher. There's
so there will be people that will automatic download for you. You just got to look, but manually, really easy at our podcast site.
Russell in New Mexico says, I read Clark's article about buying gold and silver bars online through Costco. I logged into my Costco account, but have found no information when searching for gold or silver bar, nor 1 ounce PAMP gold bar. There is no information. I would expect to see them even if it's currently out of stock, but I get hits for necklaces, bar soap, etc. I just wanted to buy one for my wife's birthday.
Well, the bar of soap would be much cheaper. You buy the Kirkland Signature
not a good idea.
Bar soap. That would be much cheaper than gold bars, right?
Bad idea.
Bad idea? You don't like the Kirkland Signature
Not as a
soap?
birthday gift for his wife. Nope.
So what Costco does is it pops up as a treasure hunt. And so people who are into this are continually looking. I don't know if there's a message board where people post when Costco is selling gold, but the gold usually goes in minutes or just a couple of hours when they post the gold bars. And the reason people love buying gold through Costco is it's the most effective way if you want physical gold to buy it. Now, the big problem, and this is a complaint I've heard over and over again, is when you go to sell the gold that you buy at Costco, you get totally ripped off. And this isn't because it's gold you got from Costco. Anywhere you buy physical gold, you get ripped off selling it with a buy-sell spread. And so if you don't hold it a long time, you could actually lose money just on buying it and then going around and selling it. So it needs to be a long-term play that you're going to own the gold. But it is something that will not appear out of stock on Costco.com. It'll just be there. They sell out the inventory, and then it's like it was never there. So it has to be, you got lucky. They were selling gold again, so like last week, and it went so fast, it was like a blink of an eye. I own no physical gold myself because of all the expenses. When I own any commodities, I own them through funds. Same thing for any kind of precious metal. I own through funds rather than actual physical possession because the buy-sell spread is such a problem when you have the actual physical gold or silver or whatever. Coming up ahead, wouldn't it be great if you had enough gold, you needed a storage unit for it? Well, a lot of times storage units are fool's gold, and I have new updates for you about renting that storage unit straight ahead. We were at dinner with a friend recently who was going on and on about how crazy it is that people rent all these storage units. And I had never rented a storage unit before till we downsized and moved from our house to a much smaller condo. And we just couldn't winnow the herd quickly enough. So we rented a storage unit, and then after a few months, we were able to get rid of a lot of the stuff, thin the herd, and we rented a smaller one. And then we had that one for 12 months, and then we were able to not have any storage unit at all anymore. And that felt really wonderful. But storage units are something that have been one of the biggest growth industries in United States real estate for decades. And I've been reading in the financial press that has stopped, that Americans are not into keeping as much stuff anymore. And that's at a time that so many limited partnerships formed to build storage facilities, and they've upscaled these storage facilities, building in higher income neighborhoods, building things with nice facades on them so they can get past zoning and build these storage facilities. And all these are coming out of the ground at a time that the absolute demand for storage facilities is down. I saw an item, one of the financial papers I read, about how they're having trouble with rising vacancy rates in storage units around the country because it's a train wreck. You've got more inventory coming on the market at the same time that people are reducing the demand for these storage units. There's less people looking for units to rent. And so if you are an existing tenant somewhere, they usually know they got you because you don't want to go through the hassle of having to load up all your stuff and move it somewhere else. But what you do is you go shop the competition in the general vicinity of where you're renting a storage unit. You're almost certainly going to find rents per square foot much lower than what you're paying right now. And you can go to the landlord of the storage unit you're with, whoever the on-site manager is, and say, yeah, I'm not going to renew next month because I found this deal at blah, 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 and they're giving me this much better a deal, they at that point will say, well, what if we match that deal if you pay for 12 months or whatever? And so you have market power right now in most zip codes in the United States to drive a much harder bargain on the rental of your storage unit. But the real opportunity is, if you can't remember the last time you went to look at what you have in your storage unit, what you'll find is how much stuff in there you thought was important to keep, you actually are never going to use again. So have a garage sale or give it away or whatever it is. When Lane and I emptied that smaller storage unit, it was kind of embarrassing how much of the stuff we realized after 16 months from moving from our house to getting out of the storage unit completely, how much of that stuff we were never going to use, and we had paid to store it for 16 months. So the storage unit we had was a quarter mile from a Goodwill, and I did 2 trips up to the Goodwill from the storage unit, gave away a lot of the stuff, and the rest of it we were able to deploy in our condo, and we were done with that storage unit. And I want you to know it feels so good to be able to terminate that lease and not pay that money anymore. And Christa, have you ever had a storage unit?
Never.
So a relative of mine, I will not name, has 6 of these things.
Well, that relative also moved out of their home and travels all the time.
You're going to make an excuse for my brother?
Yes. Oh, I didn't say it.
Gary, you're free to have rebuttal time.
Yes.
But Christa
Clark
did
stinks.
it for you.
Come on, Gary. Gary's the best.
So Gary has storage units in Utah, Arizona, and Florida. Mm-hmm. He and his wife moved to Florida years ago, but they rent. They don't own a place. So they have all this stuff, and hopefully there's a need for all of this. By the way, how many break-ins has Gary had from his storage units over the years?
I don't know.
1.
Okay.
But they cleaned him out pretty good when he got hit at that one. And if you're not specifically insured for it, then it's just your loss, unfortunately, at storage units.
All right, we'll go to some questions. This one's from Bonnie in Georgia. I've received a notice from Synchrony that if I want paper... It's
Synchrony or Synchrony?
Synchrony. We got a Clark Stinks about it before when you said Synchrony. Yeah, Synchrony.
Okay.
That if I want paper bills, I will pay a $1.50 fee per bill each month. Is that even legal? Some of my credit cards switched to them rather than individual stores, so I now have 4 accounts with Synchrony. That means I will be paying a $6 fee monthly to receive paper bills. This is ludicrous. I have gained an abundance of knowledge from your newsletters.
Should we call him Ludicrony? So Synchrony charging you $6 a month, $72 a year. Take the paperless statement. Save the $72. And if you have a computer printer, you can print them out for a lot cheaper than that. Or you can save a PDF, which is what a lot of people have recommended who've responded to me about the paper statements. And so you can have the PDFs, you can look at them, make sure the charges are relevant. I get notices repeatedly. I got one recently from Citibank telling me that they wanted to start paperless statements, they call it. And I said no. And at some point I know they're going to say there's going to be a charge. And at that point, then I'll bend to their will and I will just do the PDF thing. But I like my physical statements. I like my paper statements. One thing, though, set up alerts with any credit card where you receive texts when your new bill is available. Certain parts of the country are having a lot of reliability problems right now with the U.S. Postal Service. And if a bill comes late, you're still responsible for it no matter what. It's not, there's no grace for the Postal Service not delivering the bill on time and you being late making a payment. So if you have the alert that your bill is posted, you're able to see and make sure you get your payment in on time rather than have the bill come really late. I'll tell you, it's funny, I get the things from Costco and Sam's when they're having their sales. Mm-hmm. And I just got one from Costco 3 weeks into the sale.
Oh, boy.
That it was just floating around the Postal Service, who knows where. And the sale was about to end, and I just got it. So Postal Service workers are working their tails off. There's an extreme shortage of postal workers. The technology they're using is really antiquated, and they're suffering working all kinds of crazy hours, and we're suffering with unreliable mail delivery, and that's why you need some kind of backup system for those paper statements I love so much.
Rick in Arizona says, does using a third-party payer like PayPal offer any better security when buying products online than just using your credit card with the vendor?
That's a good question, Rick. So you have specific rights with a credit card when you use it to pay for something. PayPal offers its own protections that go, as best I read them, go beyond what's required by federal law. But PayPal is a safe platform to pay with. You have none of those protections if you use PayPal's own payment service, peer-to-peer payment service, which is the one that you use. What's not Cash App?
I use Venmo.
Venmo, yeah. Which is owned by PayPal. You don't have the same protections with it that you have with parent PayPal when you pay through them. And of course, for many reasons I've described in the past, you have no protections of meaning with Zelle. So using a credit card to pay something or PayPal is superior. And when you're out and about, using Apple Pay or GPay to pay with your credit cards is superior than presenting your physical credit card itself.
It's called Google Wallet now. We have to get used to it. I know. Judy in Georgia says, do you save electricity by turning off the lights in rooms you're not using? Or does it cost more to turn the lights on and off? My sister swears that our father told her it's cheaper to leave the lights on where you are. She says it's cheaper to just leave them on when you're sitting there, and I turn off all my lights when I'm not in that specific room. For example, a bathroom.
Okay, so Judy, this has been a debate for as long as I've been, all the way back to when I started in radio in the mid-'80s. And lighting has changed completely since then. Now we have these ultra-efficient LED lights. So you really want to save money, you put in the modern LED lights because they cost as little as 1/20th the electricity of a traditional incandescent. Second, turning them off and on is not really going to matter with the newest generation of LEDs. But what's really great is how little they cost to run and how pure the light is, since you can buy pretty much any light across the color spectrum. They don't even cost that much anymore to buy the LEDs. So that's really the big thing for me, is what source of lighting you're using instead of whether you turn the switches off and on. But I think about when I go to a hotel anywhere in the world outside the United States, they are so price conscious. What do they do in hotels? You have to have a card that goes into a slot, and without that, you have no lights in your room. So when you leave your room, your hotel room key comes out of that and the lights go off, and it's an enormous savings. What happens in a home is a miniaturization of that. Someone will go into a room, turn the lights on, leave that room, leave the lights on, maybe even till the next day, and you're wasting all that money, even at the much lower cost of an LED light bulb. So having lights that you turn off as you leave a room as a habit will ultimately save you money. So That's how I'm weighing in. If you are of an engineering mind and you think I'm crazy about that, or just crazy, remember, go to clark.com/clarkstinks and post your response. And who knows, Christa may read it on Friday's Clark Stinks segment. So have a great, great rest of your day. And remember what we're about, you learning ways to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off.